In this video, the topic is one of the attitudes that I notice to most people in this era that hurt the world rather than fixing and making it better. I titled this People and Behavior as Humans and the Mentality of Condemning Others for Our Action. The blaming attitude. It is defined as to say or think that someone or something did something wrong or is responsible for something bad happening. According to Wallace, the attitudes involving blame are backward looking and focus on individual agent who has done something morally wrong. Even before I started the YouTube video, I already thought about making a video about this behavior, the blaming game or attitude. People in general get frustrated easily when things don't go their way and quick to blame others. As an example, with just the day-to-day activities, you're running late, the car won't start, and you really have to go somewhere, and it's essential for you to get there on time. You then start blaming the work you do that you're so busy and you put off getting the car checked and ignore the check engine light, forget to get the gas, and you start just blaming everyone else, your spouse and the kids, for all of it. With the world and economy around the globe are going through some challenging times, let us talk about us, people, and the feeling of being the victim when pandemic like the one we have now happened. Would you agree that instead of helping to resolve the issue, we blame someone else for it? In that rather than helping the authority find a solution by simply following the rules or not adding to the existing problems or help figure out how the pandemic started, we also add to the problems. Now, let's look at the big picture. Overpopulation, especially from the third world countries. First and foremost, allow me to define overpopulation. It is a condition where the number of people consumes the resources in one country to the point that it can no longer support the population. Whose fault? Here's the pointing our fingers attitude. Most of them point their finger to God for not providing for them. Let's say they have 9 kids. Next, pointing their finger to the government, whom we think should be there to give us free money, free allowance, food, because that is what we think they are there for. Reality is, a child comes into this world as a blank slate. Each parent should have the right mindset, I believe, to see if they can afford to have 3 or more children and not for one to think to have a large number of children, you may increase the odds of having a good one that will provide for you later on, or that one or two of them would help you in later. As stated, He, the one above, God, helps those who help themselves. How can you have many kids and blame someone else when you cannot place food on the table with not enough money to send them to school or tell them to beg money for you? There are many under 3 years old nowadays who are not growing with the right nutrition. So why point our fingers to those who work their ass off, thinking they are selfish for not helping us or that it's their fault that we have many kids to support? And some think they are with no sin who are so strongly against the regulation regarding contraceptives and accusing the government of being immoral on doing so. But they cannot give or help these kids that are out on the street begging. Oh, yes, they just love to talk but no action on their part. Poverty is perpetuated by having more children than one can comfortably support. No child deserves to suffer or be doomed to suffer hunger, disease, crimes, and being uneducated. It is an individual decision and responsibility that we can take action on providing for them and not relying on anyone else when we bear a child. Why I created this video during this time of uncertainty. Think about it. The blaming attitude worsened during this time. Blaming people who eat bats, mice, and snakes. Hatred or racism becomes more serious, with no forgiveness to both sides. Devastation has a story of opposing parties. People blame those who don't wear masks for spreading the virus, and those who are wearing masks blaming the government for not providing a more stringent rule. All these pointing fingers, none of us question the most significant problem the world is facing: overpopulation and its substantial effects on the environment. So, how it's all connected? Pointing fingers, blaming overpopulation and the virus spread. While we are all busy blaming others, someone is more concerned about the increasing population and the harmful effect on the environment. Now you tell me what the virus is for. As I was browsing the internet, I have seen many articles about climate change in 2020. Even though it's not my subject in this video, I grabbed one of the clips about the destruction of the environment to share with my YouTube friends.
The case in regard to the entire humanity itself and its existence. To what extent these drastic changes become reality depends on how much the world population increases. On the front line of the elimination of nature, as well as the destruction of the flora and fauna, is the spreading of millions of tons of chemical poisons. Chemicals deposited in the food plants of all kinds are then eaten by the human being, leading him or her to become sick, waste away, and finally die. Valuable plants, animals, other creatures, lizards, insects, aquatic life forms, and birds are also poisoned and exterminated by these chemical poisons. Cattle, poultry, and all kinds of animals are treated with diverse antibiotics, which when eaten by the human beings are then again assimilated and create a resistance to antibiotics. Consequently, he or she can no longer be healed from diverse illnesses or can no longer be protected from infections. First and foremost, it is the forests in Asia are cleared and destroyed beyond recovery. Worldwide, there are around 125,000 square kilometers which are destroyed and eliminated annually. This destruction has devastating consequences for nature and its fauna and flora, as well as for the climate and the oxygen content in the atmosphere. The elimination of the tropical rainforests alone contributes around 25% of the worldwide CO2 emissions. If the CO2 output in regard to the coming deforestation of the tropics is viewed and considered overall, then by the year 2100, 100 to 130 billion tons of CO2 can be expected to be produced. Of the 32 million species and kinds of plants and animals, more on which their life depends. Too little, too late. By the time environmental pollution resolutions are applied into reality, 10 or 20 years have transpired. Our current population is growing at a rate of approximately 100 million per year, which means that these resolutions, once they have been implemented, are already very much out of date again. With an average increase of 100 million human beings per year, then by the year 2050, there will be around 12 billion human beings who will populate and torment the Earth. This is based on exact PlayRN information, which states that on December 31st, 2015, we had over 8.6 billion people on this planet. In contrast, Earth statisticians, who in the year 2015 start with only approximately 7.4 billion, believe that by the year 2050, only 9 billion human beings will populate the Earth. The World Trade Organization's advancement of the dismantling of trade restrictions has led to many countries undermining laws concerning the protection of the environment and consumers. Among other things, not only nature and its fauna and flora suffer, but rather also the climate and the entire planet, as well as the human beings. Air pollution then sinks and decomposes in the water. The decomposition process consumes oxygen and depletes the supply available to healthy marine life. Plants, as well as aquatic animals and so forth, which have died in the water, need bacteria to decay, which require so much oxygen for their own existence that there is no longer enough of it for further aquatic life forms and aquatic plants. All the destruction which has arisen due to the machinations. The time has long ago passed when lax, idiotic, useless, and unserviceable international climate protection agreements can be passed, because now intellect and rationality and a resolute, drastic, clear, useful, and valuable action are demanded in order to finally, still, indeed, prevent the threatening Earth-human tragedy of the future.
Hey, you very good! See you next time!